Hey everyone, it's been a little bit of a while since I did a podcast, and yeah, it's hard trying to keep up with this blogging, coaching, doing presentations, and I have a calendar invite all the time. But you know what? It's not about finding the time; it's about making the time. So I'm home today, and I really want to dive into are students engaged or are they just complying? One of the best aspects of the work that my team and I at Aspire Change EDU do is getting into classrooms with leaders as part of the coaching process. And during this time, we begin to collect qualitative evidence aligned with growth opportunities that they have set during initial meetings. And no matter where our travels take us, one of the most common areas districts and schools want to improve is shifting from compliance to student engagement. Truth be told, from my lens, this is something that most systems would benefit from if learning is the goal. So it's important to differentiate between the two. But before I do, we kind of see engagement as the holy grail in education. And that is true. If students aren't engaged, they're probably not learning. And when we think about compliance and engagement as concepts in the classroom, in disruptive thinking in our classrooms, I refer to compliance as following rules or expectations without necessarily understanding or internalizing the reasons behind them. Think about that for a second. If students are just sitting there staring at us, are they truly engaged in what we are saying? The same could be said about adults. You know, Compliance is often driven by external motivations, like avoiding punishment or receiving awards. For specific characteristics and examples, let's look at this. Number one, students are compliant when there's external or limited motivation. Students may comply to avoid punishment, receive awards. In Drive, one of my favorite books, by the way, Dan Pink refers to these as carrots and sticks and if then rewards that are extrinsic in nature. That means students do what they are told to, in school, most notably, get a grade. Number two, passive consumption and participation. A great example of compliance. Students may simply do what they're told without active involvement. Some examples include taking notes, listening to lectures, watching videos, and popcorn or teacher-led reading. By the way, I'm not a big fan of popcorn reading, and the research shows that that's not a very effective practice. Other passive examples include paying attention while only a few students respond to verbal questions, and sitting at desks while one student is at the board or interactive screen. It's important to keep in mind that this is not, passive learning. This is passive consumption. Learning is learning, everybody. But let's go back to cold calling. We're taught that that's a great strategy. Randomly selecting. Well, watch what the other kids are doing. While one student is up there actively participating, the rest are complying. They're sitting there waiting for it to get done. Same could be said when we randomly call on kids and we only get to 3 or 4. What are the rest of them doing? Typically sitting there. And another, number 3, when we think about compliance, is superficial understanding. Compliance often indicates a basic understanding of the task, the standard, but not necessarily a deeper grasp of the subject matter or concepts. These are often associated with questions that are mostly depth of knowledge, if you're a big fan of DOK, and that's DOK 1, or the foundational level of Bloom's taxonomy, which is knowledge and recall. Typically, superficial understanding question stems begin with who, what, where, and when. So as we think about the telltales of compliance, external limited motivation, passive consumption and participation, superficial understanding, well, what does it mean to truly be engaged? Engagement involves being actively involved, interested, and enthusiastic about learning. It is fueled by intrinsic motivation, and often leads to a deeper understanding of the subject matter. While compliance and engagement may result in completing tasks, the underlying motivations and levels of involvement are vastly different. So, as we think about some of the compliant examples that I shared before, just listening to a lecture, watching a video, popcorn reading, or just reading aloud, taking notes, following along the Google slide presentation in the learning management system. That is compliance. Engagement, involving everyone, higher level thinking. So as you if you're a teacher looking to engage students in the classroom, I'm going to provide some tips. If you're a school leader, think about how you provide feedback to your teachers to empower them to move from compliance to engagement. So, what are some tried and true engagement strategies? And as I go through these, just remember, there is no best way to engage students. I often speak about we have to challenge the notion of best practice. If there was a best practice, we'd all be doing it with a high degree of fidelity and getting amazing results. There are effective practices. So there is not one best way or right way to engage students, but there are an array of effective strategies, such as student voice. This is where everyone in the class responds to questions using whiteboards, dry erase surfaces, Post-its, or technology. I really like to see student voice involved when we are reviewing prior learning, checking for understanding, or implementing closure. It's a great way to involve every student. Another strategy, turn and talk to spark discourse. Inputs are fine. Direct instruction, whole group is fine. We need to chunk it. And we have to get kids to process what they are hearing. And turn and talk is a great way for students to visibly be engaged while they're discussing with their peers questions related to the content. Another strategy that's not new, I do, we do, you do. I do. We input, we model, we do, that guided practice, you do, independent. The we do and you do, that's putting more of the responsibility on the students. Another example to engage is relevant application. Students want to know, why am I learning this? How will I use it outside the classroom? And what tells me if I am successful? So as we think about engaging our students, we truly want to see what are those opportunities to get them to apply what they're learning in meaningful, authentic, and practical ways. So I love performance tasks. Performance tasks are a great way for students to really dive deeper into the concepts and create a product for a relevant audience. Another engagement strategy are scaffolded questions and tasks. We want to provide an appropriate amount of challenge. And when scaffolding questions, we might start off with who, what, where, when, but then get to how, why, justify your response, support with evidence. So we don't want students to just be doing that low-level learning. So think about how you scaffold questions and tasks. Another great engagement strategy, choice activities. Notice I didn't just say choice board. But we want to engage kids and differentiate process. Choice is a great way to do that. So you could do must do, may do lists, choice boards, playlists, or just have students choose the right way to demonstrate understanding. Differentiation is another great way to engage learners. And we often differentiate content, but rarely do I see consistent differentiation of process and product. We can differentiate process through data-enhanced rotations, where data is used to group, regroup, target instruction, and to provide the right supports for students that need it. Another great engagement strategy, cooperative learning. Again, not new. I love the jigsaw activity, jigsaw way to implement cooperative learning. And then finally, two other ones, meaningful extension activities to maximize time. If students finish a task, great. But do they have meaningful extension activities where they're either diving deeper into the concepts or provided more relevancy? And finally, another way to engage learners is to have success criteria and rubrics when students are completing projects or writing tasks. Very important for the students to not just go through the motions, checklists. Again, I guess they serve a purpose, but are kids just complying by checking off the list and getting it done, or are they doing the right work? So in the show notes, I'll put an image that I created that I think will help you, regardless of your role, really think about compliance versus engagement. And if you're a school leader, are you engaging people in your meetings? Are you engaging people in professional learning? So it's not just the responsibility of teachers. So think of a classroom like a garden. Compliance is like planting seeds without tending to them. The seeds may sprout, but they won't grow into healthy plants without proper care. Engagement is like carefully tending to the garden, watering the plants, providing that sunlight. These plants will thrive and ultimately, hopefully, produce beautiful flowers. Similarly in a classroom, compliance may result in students completing tasks, but they may not truly understand the material or be able to apply it. Engagement involves active participation, asking questions, seeking a deeper understanding, developing questions. Engagement leads to students who are more likely to thrive academically and develop a genuine love for learning. That's the goal, isn't it? Well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. And if you want to learn more, please check out Disruptive Thinking in Our Classrooms or Personalize. In both of those books, I dive in deep to practical strategies that can be used to engage students. Keep doing a great job, everybody. Your work matters. Until next time, this is Eric Schendinger signing off.